My name's Greg Knapp. This is the Greg Knapp Experience, your 20 to 30 minute thrill ride for your commute or your workout. Biden says he probably outperformed in his first year in office. Oh, and the country is more united. 3 Supreme Court justices say that NPR story about them is not true, fake news, and the left says, oh yeah, well, they're lying. And illegal aliens can use arrest warrants as identification to fly. Oh, that's great. It's all coming up this hour of the Greg Knapp Experience. Let's go. So we start with the press conference yesterday from Joe Biden. And yeah, it's been a very bad year, but Joe doesn't think so. So here's a reporter. Inflation's up. Your signature domestic legislation is stalled in Congress. In a few hours from now, the Senate, in an effort to deal with, quote, voting rights and, quote, voting reform legislation, is going to fail. COVID-19 still taking the lives of 1,500 Americans a day. And the nation's divisions are just as raw as a year ago. Did you overpromise to the American people what you could achieve in your first year? Yeah. No. You got to listen to Biden. Look, I didn't overpromise, and what I have probably outperformed what anybody thought would happen. Wait, what? I didn't overpromise, and what I have probably outperformed what anybody thought would happen. I'm reading it verbatim, so it sounds, the syntax isn't there. He's still bumbling around. I'm sorry, but he did not look 100% during that press conference, and there's an issue with this dude's mental capacities. But he thinks he overperformed? One thing I haven't been able to do so far is get my Republican friends to get in the game of making things better in this country. Okay, first of all, you don't need any Republicans. You have the House and the Senate. Well, there's a filibuster. Yeah, and he can't even get his Democratic people to want to do the filibuster because he's so extreme. If he would actually compromise, he could probably get more things done and unite America like he said he was going to do. But then Biden says, what are the Republicans for? What are they for? Name one thing they're for. All right, well, I'll tell you what this conservative and lots of Republicans are for. Number one, freedom, Joe, freedom. How about choice in medical treatment? How about looking at all the science? And we're going to get to that in COVID in just a minute. How about free speech, Joe? How about that? How about freedom of assembly? How about freedom of religion? How about freedom of the press? As what the person you're trying to put in as FCC has tweeted out in the past that she'd love it if Fox News went away. You guys are all excited on the left about One American News being dropped from DirecTV because, we can't have other people's opinions out there. Oh, no. Only the things that we believe are true. How about free speech in all forms, including big tech social media? How about the right to bear arms? How about less regulation, lower taxation? How about kids actually going to school? How about law and order so that we don't have this smash and grabs and murders all over America? How about teaching our kids to love each other instead of trying to divide them over their skin color? How about school choice? How about election integrity with voter IDs? Here's some things that we're for there, Joe. No. Well, what are they for? What are they for? Then we get into the so-called voting rights laws, which are really ways to federalize the election and make it easier for Democrats to cheat if you really look at what's in that thing. Speaking of voting rights legislation, said a reporter, if this isn't passed, do you believe that the upcoming election will be fairly conducted and its results will be legitimate? Because remember, Schumer has said no. Kamala Harris has said no. Biden. Well, it all depends on whether or not we're able to make the case to the American people that some of this is being set up to try to alter the outcome of the election. So is that a yes or a no, Joe? Then the reporter. People heard the speech that you gave on voting rights in Georgia recently, in which you described those who opposed you to George Wallace and Jefferson Davis. And some people took exception to that. Why would you take exception to that? Oh, you're right. What do you say to those who are offended by your speech? And is this country more unified than it was when you first took office? So here's Biden. Listen to this. He says, I did not say that there were going to be George Wallace or Bull Connor. What? Oh, we'll play it here in a second. I said we're going to have a decision in history that's going to be marked just like it was then. You either voted on the side that didn't make you George Wallace or didn't make you Bull Connor, but if you did not vote for the Voting Rights Act back then, you were voting with those who agreed with Connor, those who agreed with I think Mitch did a real good job of making it sound like I was attacking them. He's talking about Mitch McConnell. If you noticed, I haven't attacked anybody publicly, any senator, any congressman publicly. Okay. You have attacked all of them in your speech, and you had just attacked Mitch McConnell earlier in this press conference. But let's get back to him. What he's trying to say is, I didn't say you were George Connor if you voted against me. I'm just saying you're on the side of George Connor. See? I mean, it's so different. I mean, I don't understand why anybody would think, okay, here's what he actually said, right? He said, every senator, Democrat, Republican, Independent will have to declare where they stand, not just for the moment, but for all the ages. Will you stand against voter suppression? Yes or no? That's the question they'll answer. Will you stand against election subversion? Yes or no? Will you stand for democracy? Yes or no? Of course, all those are straw man false choices. That's not true at all. And here's one thing every senator, every American should remember. History has never been kind to those who have sided with voter suppression over voter rights, and it will be even less kind for those who side with election subversion, right? So here's a little bit of what he said on that speech about Bull Connor and all those guys. Listen.
How do you want to be remembered? At consequential moments in history, they present a choice. Do you want to be on the side of Dr. King or George Wallace?
Uh-huh.
Do you want to be on the side of John Lewis or Bull Connor?
Right, yeah.
Do you want to be on the side of Abraham Lincoln or Jefferson Davis?
Abraham Lincoln.
This is the moment to decide, to defend our elections, to defend our democracy.
Yeah, see, so he didn't actually call you Bull Connor, George Wallace, or Jefferson Davis. He just said you'd be on their side. It's so different. And so another reporter came in and he was trying to, see if maybe he could ask him a little bit more about that question. And Joe Biden did not like it. Listen.
More, sir. You campaigned and you ran on a return to civility, and I know that you dispute the characterization that you called folks who would oppose those voting bills as being Bull Connor or George Wallace.
Right, never
but you
did it.
said that they would be sort of in the same camp.
Right.
No, I didn't say that. Look what I said.
What?
Go back and read what I said and tell me if you think I called anyone who voted on the side of the position taken by Bull Connor that they were Bull Connor.
And
That is an interesting reading in English. I assume you got into journalism because you like to write.
so did you expect that would work with Senators Manchin or Sinema?
No, here's the thing. There's certain things that are so consequential. You have to speak from your heart as well as your head.
Right. See, so he was speaking from his heart and as well as his head. So he's getting really mad at this guy. You need to go watch that if you haven't seen it. He gets so testy, he gets so angry. He is not used to somebody challenging him like this. And by the way, this reporter said, he said, I understand you're saying you didn't call him that, but you say they were in the same camp. And he goes, no, I didn't say that. I said they were not the same people. Right. So you're saying they are in the same camp. Exactly what this journalist asked you. And now you're berating him. I thought it was horrible to berate the press. I thought it was awful. I thought that they are standing up speaking truth to power. And you should never treat them like the enemy of the state. Oh, wait, that's only if Trump says it. Oh, and when he was asked, do you think they're more unified? Followed up on that. Is the country more unified? Biden. The answer is, based on some of the stuff we've got done, I'd say yes. It's more unified. By who? Who says that? Nobody says that. I'm going to tell you more about that in just a second. But hey, if you're enjoying the show, I hope you will be my press people. You will be my advertisers because, I don't have a lot of money that I'm throwing around trying to advertise this thing. So I really appreciate you being part of the movement, to push back on the left and their view of America and rally around what makes America exceptional and really try and get that message out. So if you can tell 3 friends to listen to the Greg Knapp Experience wherever your podcasts are available, go to the Greg Knapp Experience Facebook page and like the page. I'm on Twitter, Parler, Gab. The video of the show is up on Rumble and YouTube. And just really appreciate you listening and telling 3 friends to tell 3 friends. That's going to change things in the movement. So Paul Bedard pointing out, these new polls are out. 60% are calling Biden unsuccessful, and it's the highest ever disunity in these polls. We start with Rasmussen reports. 60% called the president's first year unsuccessful. 50% said Biden had been very unsuccessful. A third of the Democrats think that he's failed. Gallup survey. Biden's promise of unity broken in pieces. Quote, party polarization highest for a first-year president. Highest. That means, like number 1. 83-point divide in his approval ratings between Democrats and Republicans. It was 75-point difference at the end of Trump's first year. Morning Consult said the approval rating is the lowest they've ever had for Biden at 40%. Rasmussen said that Biden's approval with independents is upside down. Only 30% see his first year as successful. 69% don't. Only 12% in Rasmussen said the nation was more united. Now, of course, Biden, oh yeah, it's more united. 12%. 57% say it's more divided. Man, oh man. Moving on to James Rosen's question. He's now working for Newsmax, used to work for Fox. And I thought he asked a very difficult question in probably one of the nicest ways you could ask it. He said, "Thank you very much for this honor. I'd like to raise a delicate subject, but with the utmost respect for life accomplishments and the office you hold. A poll released this morning by Politico Morning Consult found 49% of registered voters disagreeing with the statement Joe Biden is mentally fit." Biden started, oh, come on. Rosen continued, "Not even a majority of Democrats responded strongly affirming that statement." Biden jumps in, "Well, you make the judgment of whether they're correct." Okay, yeah, they're correct. I'll make that judgment. So Rosen jumps back in. "So the question I have for you, if you let me finish, is why do you suppose such large segments of the American electorate have come to harbor such profound concerns about your cognitive fitness?" Biden's response, I don't know. He didn't say that. All right, he said, "I have no idea." Kind of. I have no idea. What was the question again? I have no idea. Nap time and pudding time. We have to eat the pudding first, sir, and then you can take a nap. Pudding time and then nap time. Former White House physician Ronnie Jackson served in the role under 2 administrators, and he quickly tweeted this out. "Biden just ignored a question about his cognitive decline. Something is wrong with him. This man is not qualified to be president." He's talking about his mental facilities. "I am demanding we have a cognitive test now. There's too much on the line we need to know. Biden's press conference is disturbing and bizarre. He's totally disconnected from reality. He has no idea what's going on. It's no surprise he's been kept locked away in the basement. This is an embarrassment." Former White House physician Ronnie Jackson. He had some idea of what was going on. Certainly not a great idea of what's going on. And if you heard him talking about foreign policy on Russia and China, man, go back and look at that, because we're in trouble. Russia, they've never seen sanctions like I'm going to put on, and we got this. They don't really want a Cold War. They don't want a hot war. They don't. We're going to take care of it. And by the way, inflation is just a supply chain situation. That's nothing to worry about. And Biden defends his first-year record, but he did say he needs to do a change in tactic. Yeah, see, the problem is, you guys just don't understand what a great job he's done. I have to make clear to the American people what we're for. We passed a lot of things that people don't even understand. He doesn't either, but so I don't think I've overpromised at all. I'm going to stay on track. I'm going to be out on the road a lot, making the case around the country, making the case of what we did do and what we want to do and what we need to do. That'll fix it. See, it's kind of like what Paul Begala said the other day. The Democrats don't have bad leaders. It's that just you're bad followers. Okay? Rand Paul jumps out on the inflation deal and says, he's the top Republican on the Senate Committee on Small Business and Entrepreneurship, by the way. He says this 7% spike in inflation, the highest we've had in over 40 years, is really, the blame for it goes to the excessive coronavirus relief spending that Congress has done, and said it's only going to get worse. Quote, "Congress needs to realize further spending at this time of rapidly rising prices is only going to continue the trend of rising prices on this nation's already vulnerable businesses and families." He calls it the hidden tax. Yeah, that's what inflation is, the hidden tax. And he put a spotlight on these everyday prices going up. Paul cites public opinion studies. Households making 40 grand or less under the most hardship by the rising costs. $4.9 trillion in COVID-19 stimulus spending has led to one of the highest and sustained levels of inflation in U.S. history. Though government stimulus spending was intended as a form of relief, and low and middle income families as well as small business owners were promised that their taxes would not increase as a result of these packages, Americans are now paying a hidden tax of these policies. Yeah, you print enough money, you spend enough, then you had the blip of what was going on with COVID. Yes, absolutely, the supply chain adds to it, but the big problem is $4.9 trillion of spending, paying people not to work, all these things that are slowly coming home to roost. Not really so slowly. Okay, you're right. Quickly coming home to roost. And Biden thinks the answer is spend more money. Because, that's what my expert economist told me. Yeah, the same expert economist that told you that inflation was going to be transitory? Yeah, good economist. Back to COVID. Bonchi is reporting the CDC in the New York Times finally admitting what most of us have been talking about since COVID started, because science doesn't change like that simply because one political party wants it to. And it's this, that when you recover from an illness, you have better immunity to that illness than a vaccine can give you. As far as I know, every single time we've created a vaccine, somebody who's recovered from that illness has better immunity than the new vaccine. Maybe there's a time or two, but the CDC now has admitted to the New York Times, quote, unvaccinated people with a history of COVID, it means they recovered from COVID, right? They got natural immunity by recovering from COVID. Unvaccinated people with a history of COVID also had lower rates of infection and hospitalization than those protected by vaccines alone. So what the CDC is admitting is natural immunity is better than just being vaccinated. The data are consistent with trends observed in international studies. Yes, we have had studies on this for a long time internationally, and the CDC has been resisting them and calling people like you and me that talk about those studies liars. The people on the left on Twitter have called people like you and me talking about this killers. Liar, a killer, a conspiracy theorist, and what? For us saying the truth. Didn't ever tell people, well, what you should do is go out and get Delta and maybe you'll die, but maybe you'll be, naturally immunized then. No, simply saying if you did get COVID and you recovered from it, you may not need the vaccine because you probably have better immunities than somebody who is vaccinated. And for that, we were vilified. So as Bonchi points out, even after multiple studies emerged over the last year proving natural immunity was real and viable, the government and its media allies still pretended it did not exist. So now the question is, now that this is out there, will the CDC change its guidelines? Will the CDC now say if you were naturally immune because you had COVID, that you are fully vaccinated? No, of course they won't. They can't admit that. Case in point, here we go. Stat News. Andrew Joseph, who used to write for the San Francisco Chronicle and the left-leaning National Journal, new data show those who recovered from COVID-19 were less likely than vaccinated people to get infected during the Delta wave. Oh, good, he's telling the truth. Wait. But the data contain caveats that stress the value of vaccination even with prior infection. Say, no, you still need to get vaccinated. Oh, yeah. The data released by the CDC in New York and California are sure to inflame arguments from those who insist they don't need to be vaccinated if they can show they've recovered from COVID-19. Yeah, you horrible people. But the data contain many caveats. Okay, so what are the caveats? Well, for one, the new report was based on data only through November, before the U.S. booster campaign really took off. Oh, yeah, the booster is what's going to do it. So the two-shot didn't do it, but the booster is going to be better than natural immunity. Oh, yeah. Except that there's no evidence of that. Israel's on their fourth booster shot, and they said the fourth booster isn't really helping even against Omicron. But yeah, keep holding on to that one, Andrew Joseph. It also looked at data during the Delta wave and does not account for the surging Omicron variant. Yeah, Delta was more deadly than Omicron. So surely it's going to be even better for Omicron. We know that vaccination remains the safest strategy for protecting against COVID-19, said Benjamin Silk. Well, it's the best strategy, according to them, if you haven't already gotten natural immunity. I mean, that's what CDC just admitted. The data also confirms something we've known for a long time. Those who weren't vaccinated and also hadn't been previously infected were far more likely to be infected and hospitalized than either group. Nobody's doubting that in this report. What this report is about is if you had COVID and got better, you have better immunization than somebody who's vaccinated. And they just don't want to admit it. Here's another one. Bloomberg reporting. Early Omicron breakthroughs. That means people that got it who were vaccinated show the weakness of the vaccine. Now listen, again, so that I don't get these people trying to fact check me and tell me that I'm lying, I am vaccinated. The 2 shots. I'm not sure about the boosters, but I decided to do the vaccinations mainly because of my parents. They're elderly and they're high risk and we like going to see them. And hey, I'm over 50 and I could certainly lose a few pounds. And I looked at everything I knew and thought that, you know what? I think I'd rather get vaccinated, and if I get it, hopefully I won't get it as badly and won't die. That was my personal decision. I recommend that to lots of people, but I also recommend you do your own research and decide on your own, and that if you've recovered from COVID, that's a little different story. But here we go from Bloomberg. Booster shots with the mRNA vaccines failed to block Omicron in a study of some of the first documented breakthrough cases caused by the highly contagious variant. Can't say that. Can't say that. No, I just did. The Biden administration's COVID test website. Oh, yeah, that's out. So you can get these free tests. It's not free. Somebody pays for it. Yeah, but, don't worry. You're going to be reimbursed by your insurance company if you keep the receipts and you keep the box that it came in and you mail it out and you wait 6 months and you give your firstborn child and a drop of blood. Hopefully. Well, they rolled out the website a day early, and everybody was excited. Athena Thorne reporting for us that it was out there a day early, and people got in there, and it worked. It was quick. It was easy. It was smooth. You just put in your home address, and you get your confirmation emails. Things are coming. So far, so good. But, hold on a second. Now, remember, this is a super basic website. It has one task. Capture your address, send you a test. That's it. That's all it's got to do. And it didn't work great because it's the Biden administration. So a painfully predictable problem arose. The protections built into the government system so you don't grab 100 tests and sell them is that it limits you to one order per residential address. Okay, first of all, if you get a big family, that's going to be a problem. But secondly, they found out very quickly if you lived in an apartment building, every apartment in the apartment building was counted as one address by the website. So if one person in the apartment building logged on and got a free test, that was it for everybody in the apartment building. But don't worry, they found some workarounds. You can go in there and use the United States Postal Service official address for your apartment. Maybe you can put the apartment number in the field designated for your street address. They're great workarounds. And we've even got some of the Democrats chanting, "Let's go, Brandon." Chief Justice Roberts, Justice Sotomayor, and Justice Gorsuch have all come out and said that NPR story about them was false. Now, do you remember the NPR story? We just covered it yesterday. But it said that because Sotomayor is high risk and she has diabetes, she wanted everybody on the court to wear a mask, and that Supreme Court Chief Justice Roberts asked Gorsuch to wear a mask, and Gorsuch refused. So Sotomayor is now working remotely, right? That was the story. Well, on Wednesday, it'll be yesterday, Gorsuch and Sotomayor issued an unprecedented joint statement declaring the NPR story false. Quote, "Reporting that Justice Sotomayor asked Justice Gorsuch to wear a mask surprised us. It is false. While we may sometimes disagree about the law, we are warm colleagues and friends." Well, that should be the end of it, right? Oh, no. Because MSNBC host Rachel Maddow said, well, wait a second. That's not what the reporting said. It said that Chief Justice Roberts asked him. See, so the report didn't say that Gorsuch asked Sotomayor to wear a mask. It said that Roberts asked Gorsuch to wear a mask. So they're playing with this, guys. Don't believe it. And she wasn't the only one. Others jumped in too. The Nation correspondent Ellie Mistel tweeted a very similar thing. She said, the report was that Roberts asked him to wear a mask, not Sotomayor. So I don't get this statement. Is this another fake comma gaslighting from Team Gorsuch thing? New York Magazine senior correspondent Erin Carmen. I invite anyone here to put their sources up against Nina Totenberg's. Okay, I will. My source are the actual justices on the Supreme Court. Yours are anonymous. I think mine win. No, NPR reporter David Gura suggesting Gorsuch and Sotomayor were lying. He wrote, I'm surprised at how many Supreme Court correspondents I admire are passing along a statement from two justices that at best is false without any context whatsoever. So this guy's claiming that the two Supreme Court justices were lying. The anonymous source for Nina Totenberg is correct. NPR stands by Nina Totenberg's reporting. Totenberg never reported that Justice Sotomayor asked Justice Gorsuch to wear a mask, nor did she report that anyone admonished him. And then Chief Justice Roberts weighed in, quote, I did not request Justice Gorsuch or any other justice to wear a mask on the bench, end quote. But some were not convinced. The Nation's Mistel, we talked about our second ago. Critics are certainly free to believe the Chief Justice over the reporter on this. Okay, I'm glad I'm free to believe it because I will believe it. Responding to Roberts' statement, NPR told Fox News, we stand by her reporting, indicating Totenberg will have another story coming out imminently. I can't wait. I'm sure it will be just as verifiable as the last one. Jenny Tare reports something that is just unbelievable. The Daily Caller News Foundation got a letter from the TSA. It was in response to Republican Texas Representative Lance Gooden's inquiry. And the inquiry was about this. We know that the Biden administration is flying illegal aliens all over the country and dropping them off in different states. How are they flying without valid ID like the rest of us have to do? Well, the Transportation Security Administration said that illegal immigrants flying without proper identification can use an arrest warrant as an alternative form of ID. A warrant for arrest of an alien or a warrant of removal deportation. So here are people that have been arrested, people that we say we're going to deport, and we're allowing them to use that paper to get on a plane and fly deeper into the United States of America. Individuals who use alternative forms of ID undergo extra screening, though, said the TSA, and that it relies on the agencies like the Border Patrol, the U.S. Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, and they issue these documents, and they depend on them to verify the name of the document used on the alternative ID is the person who the person claims to be. Well, that's nice, isn't it? Except there's a problem with that, because those agencies have told the Daily Caller that they often have to take these illegal aliens at their word for who they are because they don't come in with any ID. Well, hey, I mean, they wouldn't lie. Finally, the new governor, Glenn Youngkin, Republican, Virginia. He's been sworn in, and he's making some pretty quick changes. One is a major shift to the purpose of the Virginia State Diversity Office. The new governor tapped Angela Saylor, former official in the George W. Bush administration, vice president of the Fuller Institute at the Heritage Foundation, to work at the state's chief diversity, opportunity, and inclusion officer. Indeed, the term opportunity is now replacing the term equity in the title. So there's a new mission for the agency. And according to an executive order from Youngkin's office, Saylor will, quote, promote free speech and civil discourse in civic life, serve as an ambassador for unborn children, and be responsive to the rights of parents in educational and curricular decision making. All right, all that sounds great, but I tend to agree with Christopher Rufo. He's the guy that's been really getting all the details about how the principles of critical race theory are being taught in K through 12 all across America, and the left keeps lying about them. Manhattan Institute senior fellow. But he said this: my recommendation, abolish this office, the Diversity and Equity Office. Just get rid of it entirely and replace it with an MEO department promoting merit, excellence, and opportunity. This is ultimately a war of values, and most Americans prefer a system of individual rights and achievement, not neo-Marxist equity. End quote. He's right. I mean, this office only has been put in by the last Democrat governor because of his blackface incident, and he thought that would calm people down. This thing doesn't need to exist. Treat everyone equally, regardless of their skin color, their religious beliefs, their sexual orientation, whatever. Just treat everybody the same. But on his first day in office, Youngkin signed 11 executive orders, many of them following promises he made on the campaign trail, to restore excellence in education by ending the use of divisive concepts, including critical race theory, allow parents to make decisions on whether their child wears a mask in school, investigate the wrongdoing in Loudoun County. You remember that story about the rapes going on there. Beyond education reform, other orders vow to prevent human trafficking, provide support to survivors, establish a commission to combat anti-Semitism, cut job-killing regulations by 25%, restore individual freedoms and personal privacy by rescinding the vaccine mandate for all state employees. That is an awfully good start for a brand new governor. My name's Greg Knapp. This is the Greg Knapp Experience.